What's up, everybody? Thanks again for stopping by for another edition of March 4th with Mike Bauman. I, of course, am your host, Mike Bauman. Whoever you are, wherever you are listening from, thank you so much for checking out the podcast. If you're a returning listener, I greatly appreciate your continued love and support. And if you're a brand new listener of the show, man, thank you so much for hopping aboard that pirate ship. You can follow me on Instagram at March 4th Pod. I am on YouTube at March 4th Pod. I'm over there on the TikTok at March 4th Podcast. Hey, you know something? If you made it here, then that means you found me somehow. And I truly appreciate each and every one of you taking the time to check out another edition of the March 4th with Mike Bauman Podcast. Happy New Year to each and every one of you. 2025. Here it is. It sounds a little spacey to me. I'm another year older, another year wiser, but I hope you guys feel the same way, man. Time is a funny thing. It moves fast, and 2025 definitely sounds pretty spacey. It's wild to think that there's going to be people who are 25 years old and they were born in the year 2000. That trips me out. But anywho, I hope that everybody had a great end to the year. I hope that you and yours had a happy holiday season, whatever it is that you celebrate. I hope you got a chance to spend some time with some family and some friends and some loved ones. I did, and it was awesome. The only bad thing is this time of the year, with my sinuses, man, I'm kind of prone to infection and stuff. And just the last couple of days, I've been kind of miserable. Um, so my voice is a little bit deeper than it normally is because your boy's been pretty my schnoz is like raw, which is probably gross. I probably shouldn't give you a visual of that, but your boy's been blowing his nose a lot because the last couple of days, man, have just been kind of gnarly. But I do hope that everybody is looking forward to the new year. I know that I am. 2024 was the biggest year yet for March 4th. And I just want to say thank you again to all of my family, my friends, all the listeners out there who I don't know on a personal level that are checking out the show, not just in the United States, but in numerous countries throughout the world, man. I think it was close to like 30 countries that the show was downloaded in last year, um, across all the platforms. So thank you to each and every one of you who are vibing with the show. Mental health is really important to me. Music is really important to me. Having interesting and thought provoking conversations are really important to me. And so this is truly a passion project in every sense of the word, man. And I just feel very grateful that it's growing. And I feel very grateful for the wonderful guests that continue to come on the show and share their stories with myself and all of you. So thank you from the bottom of my heart to all of you, man, for real. I really appreciate it. It's been fun doing this bad boy, and I'm so excited to see where it continues to go in 2025. I know I'm gonna one of my goals is to work more on the YouTube stuff. I really haven't done too much with that. Last year was the first year for me doing the video clips, and that was kind of an undertaking because your boy's a little bit like a caveman when it comes to technology. I'm not old, but I'm not super young, man. I'm in my mid 30s, so that was one of my goals last year was to do video shorts from the episode, snippets of the conversation, and I think people like those more than just when I was doing the audio stuff. And then this year, like I said, is going to be doing the YouTube a little bit more and just putting out that content more to people between YouTube and TikTok and Instagram to try to make sure I get these awesome guests out to as many people as possible, man, because that's what I want. I want the show to be a place where people feel like it's a space where they can learn. It's a space where they know it's cool to talk about mental health. It's okay to not be okay, and learn from people who through their own struggles and their own successes, how they've kind of worked through those things. So if you are new to the show, that's the whole vibe between, uh, the conversations, the music, everything, man. That's what March 4th means, is perseverance and moving forward. So thank you again to all of you. So let's get 2025 rolling. This week's guest is a first time guest of March 4th. I actually met him through a mutual friend. Shout out Brand from the band Sleep Nation here in Nashville. Friends of the show, awesome guys. Go check out their new record, Deadbeat Disco. And I first saw this guy back, I think, in June. We met briefly, but it was the first time I had seen him perform. And he had a Slipknot shirt on, so I'm like, that's what's up. He likes the heavy stuff. He likes the little head bangage. and he got on the stage, man, and I think it was called Return to the Void. It was a show here in Nashville at the East Side Bowl where people from the local music scene came together. Not Your Nails, who Brand from Sleep Nation also plays in, they performed. But then there was also, hit song like, in the new metal and hard rock and alternative realm, like hit songs from that era that different musicians in the scene came together and performed and did covers, and it was sick. And I remember Kris getting on stage and I was like, man, that dude's got a sick voice. And we finally were able to make it happen. So this week's guest is none other than Kris Jackson. He is a vocalist and multi-instrumentalist based here in Nashville, Tennessee. He is the lead vocalist in the band All the Tension, which is a newer band here in Nashville. They combine pop punk and metalcore, as you guys will hear in this conversation. And he's just a really good dude, man. Like I said, I got a chance to meet him briefly back in June, and then I went to another show in August. I can't remember if he was at that one. I think he was. There was another Not Your Nails show, and then we saw each other again for the Sleep Nation album release show for Deadbeat Disco back in November. And Kris actually sings on the song Sold Out Crowd on Sleep Nation's new record, Deadbeat Disco. So he performed with Bran and Joey at that release show. And we got a chance to catch up again. And so that's a long way of me saying I got a lot of respect for Kris. All the Tension has put out 3 singles, all in 2024. Deaf, Faster and Faster, and Ruin This Song. All of them are awesome. You'll hear about all of them in this conversation, as well as what's forthcoming for All the Tension. And we also hear about, Kris's journey with music, from when he was a little guy to how he got into screaming and learning how to, do those hardcore vocals. So for those of you out there who are really into that, man, you're gonna get a breakdown of it, of how he discovered that part of his voice and how he's really worked hard to put in the effort to learn how to do it the right way. And it was just an awesome conversation, man. Like it was a great one to start off the year. He's a really good guy, and we've got a lot of similar musical tastes, and it was just cool to learn more about All the Tension and what's on deck for these guys and for Kris in 2025. So without further ado, I'm gonna shut my big yapper and give you guys my conversation with Kris Jackson of All the Tension. Here it is. Kris, thanks again so much, dude, for taking the time. I really appreciate it. It's been cool to come out to a few shows and see you sing in person, and then listening to All the Tension, man. And I know you guys got some stuff in the works, and we'll get into it. But thanks for taking the time to.
Yeah, dude, thanks for having me on. I'm super excited to do it. And yeah, all the tension. It has been a ride so far.
So usually where I like to go on these things, man, and I always do my homework, but I just when you meet people who really love music and it's not like a commodity or just like stuff in the background for them, and obviously you being a singer and having the killer pipes, um, what was kind of the bug that bit you with music, dude? Do you remember what that rabbit hole moment was? Were you a little guy? Was it an album? Was it somebody in the family or a friend? Like how did you really start getting into music more than just being a casual listener and being somebody who sings?
Great question. I'd say it started pretty early on when I was in sixth grade. They had a talent show at my school, and I had just gotten into Blink 182, like hard, deep into Blink 182. Like they were my favorite band. They were my first like band that I was just like, I love this band. All other music was cool before then, but they were the first band to like really hit me. And so I loved that kind of music. I started getting into other stuff. And they put on this talent show at school, and these guys went up there and did that song My Own Worst Enemy by Lit. Know what I'm talking about? And like full band. And I'm in sixth grade. I think these guys were in eighth grade. And I was like, oh my God, these guys are in eighth grade and they're doing that. Like that's so freaking cool. Like I want to do that. I want to be in a band and I want to do all that kind of stuff. So I think that's where it started. And then it took a while trying to find my own way there. I was in the high school band, so I played baritone in the high school band. I was like, I'm not getting in a band this way. I need to figure out some other things. I knew I could sing okay, so I was like, I could probably do that in a band. And I started trying to learn to play guitar and all that kind of stuff. Guitar never worked out all that well for me. I played piano a bit, and so basically, long story short, sort of leaned in that direction, playing piano and singing with a focus on singing, and that sort of permeated throughout my like outside of school choir, band, and all that kind of stuff. My personal endeavors with music. But yeah, Blink 182 was a heavy influence for me. I eventually got into like emo, which led to me getting into heavier stuff, which I always say like screaming stuff is like a gateway drug, because it was for me. I listened to, I didn't really like screaming stuff at first, but then I listened to Taking Back Sunday, who had a bit, they let a little bit screamy at times. And then I eventually got into bands like Silverstein, who screamed even more, with just that raw emotion and passion, and really felt where it was coming from. And then that led to getting into really heavy stuff where all they do is scream. So kind of went into that. And I always thought that the screaming aspect was really cool, and eventually wanted to learn how to do it. And a few years ago, COVID changed everything for everybody. I was like, what better time now than when I'm home alone in my apartment than to annoy the shit out of my neighbors and start learning how to scream. So I started learning how to do that, and I was like, this is coming along. I should start a band that I can actually do this in.
So singing wise then, man, what age were you when you first started trying to sing? And then it wasn't until COVID that you started to try really like the kind of the hardcore screamo vocals?
Yeah, I feel like growing up, I sang just like anybody does, the shower and whatever. My mom and dad both sing. My mom, like, she's always been that she sings at church, like actually like goes up and is on the praise team and all that kind of stuff. So, and then my dad, he writes music and sings too, but it's all like very Christian music. It's what they've always been into. So, and my older brother, he likes to sing too. So I feel like I was like in a musical family. Singing was just something that came very natural, and I feel like I've just always done it since I could talk. But it wasn't something I really took seriously as far as doing, other than just messing around until, like I said, I got decided I wanted to be in bands and do that sort of thing. And I started to focus on it a little more. And then in junior year of high school, I took a choir class. And that really helped me own some things in, learn how to harmonize and do some different stuff with my voice that I wasn't able to do before, like falsetto stuff. I had never really, developed that skill, even though it was like sort of there. It really helped me find that difference between the two, the head voice and the chest voice, and go in between them. And then, yeah, it really wasn't until 2020 that I had always listened to it and enjoyed it, but anytime I tried to do anything like that, it just sounded ridiculous and hurt my voice. But I always knew that there had to be a way for people to do it safely, and there had to be a right way, because otherwise, how are these guys going on tour and doing this 100, plus days out of the year and still able to do it at a high level? And so, yeah, it was 2020. I was like, well, you know what? I've always liked it. I know there's a way to do it. I'm gonna freaking learn. And so I like found some YouTube videos. There's one guy, Chris Lipe, who has vocal instructor videos on every topic you can think of, but that includes harsh vocals. And I think of all the videos that I watched, he helped me develop it the most. And I had watched a bunch, but there was like something that he said that like really clicked and really helped me start to get there. And then I just kind of kept practicing at it. He had mentioned recording yourself and listening to it to kind of track your progress, and I'd been doing that, and that really helped. That helps with singing as well, just singing. But with the screaming, it really helped me because I was able to hear some of the things that I was doing well. Because it's very frustrating. It's one of those things that, like, I'm a pretty quick learner most of the time. So, but screaming is something that you don't just learn, you have to develop it. And so for me, not being able to do it or just grasp it and do it right away was very frustrating and made me want to not do it at times. But yeah, like recording myself and listening to it, I would hear little bits where I'd be like, okay, that was it right there. And then so I would like try to do it again, and I would kind of hone in on that thing and expand upon it. And I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm actually getting somewhere. And it was super helpful, and it's fun actually to go back because I've gone back on the recordings on my phone and been like, oh man, yes, I've come a long way since those days. But yeah, a lot of people will they'll be surprised that it was only 4 years ago now that I actually started doing it. But it's amazing what you can do in that amount of time when you're really trying to do it, really focusing on it. Because I've been pretty diligently developing it over that time, and I'm pretty happy with where I'm at with it now.
Yeah, man, I don't think the average listener, I think the people who listen to metal and hardcore and emo understand, like the big fans of it. Silverstein is Shane Told, I believe, right? Is their lead singer. Um,
Amen.
yeah, great voice. Also has a really good podcast, free plug for him, Lead Singer
Ooh,
Syndrome, it's called. Yeah, he's really funny too, but yeah, like being able to do that, I think, because I think like the kind of the throwaway comment that people who don't understand how hard it is, they'll be like, oh, that's like Cookie Monster, blah blah blah. And then it's like, well, try it without like murdering your voice. And
or it
I
sounded completely ridiculous.
yeah, yeah, like I've never tried it because I can't sing at all, but I would love to be able to emote like that. But one of my favorite lyricists, so kind of like you, like you were talking about how you progressed with, your ear in terms of getting into heavier music and coming from like Blink 182. So for me, one of the first foundational band for me for heavy music was Metallica. Um and I've told that stories numerous times on this podcast, but I got a big brother, shout out Brandon, who's 6 years older. I'm 36, going on 37. So, in 96, he was like 14. So that was the era of Metallica where a lot of people turned on them because they cut their hair and they weren't doing thrash, load and reload. Although there's some of my favorite Metallica deep cuts, Bleeding Me is off a load, one of my favorite Metallica deep cuts, but like Until It Sleeps was the song on the radio at that time. And I still remember that music video had like a really kind of like heaven and hell thing going on. And I just thought it was like
Yeah,
the coolest thing. Um,
I
but
think everybody's older brother loves Metallica. We're actually the same age. I'm 36, going on 37. My brother's 7 years older than me, also huge Metallica fan. So it's
oh
just
yeah,
so funny.
yeah, oh yeah, it's right on, man. Yeah, and also Corn, like they were starting what came to be known as new metal at the time. He's big into Corn, so those were kind of foundational. And then I vividly remember being in the car with my mom as my parents were going through a divorce. Their divorce was final in '99 when I was 11, and we had a station called it was 106.5 The Buzz was like the I feel like everybody had a buzz like 106.5 The Buzz was ours in Toledo, and that was like the alternative and hard rock. So it was too heavy to be classic rock, but it was and not old enough to be classic rock. So that was kind of like the melding pot of all the kind of left to center stuff, but still radio friendly enough. And I remember My Own Prison from Creed came on, and I remember just hearing Mark Tremonti's guitar playing, and I was like, damn, and then Scott Stapp came on with his voice, the quarters in session. And I just remember how that song hit me viscerally. So then Creed was a big band for me because I just really got into like them and then Seven Dust. And then so it was like Metallica, Korn, Creed, Seven Dust, obviously Limp and Linkin Park, all the new metal stuff that was going on. I did enjoy Blink 182 a lot too, because I feel like pop punk and new metal were kind of like going upward at the same time in the early 2000s. Like
For
Enemas
sure.
came out and Blink was all over MTV, and used to watch TRL with my sister. And then it was when I got into like probably freshman, sophomore year of college was when I started to get into like the hardcore vocals. Trivium, Matt Hafey, and then Five Finger Death Punch, Ivan Moody. I think I heard the Bleeding on at the time it might have been XM or Sirius Jose Mangan show. Now it's like Sirius XM Octane. And then so it was really those bands that kind of got me going. And then Kill Switch, Howard Jones is like one of the
Mm.
one from the melody to the hardcore, him and Jesse Leach. So yeah, I feel like I kind of progressed from like Metallica to the really, they were like the gateway band for me. But I remember Jesse Leach talking about how difficult that was for him in the early days. He would just blow his voice out all the time because he didn't know how to kind of control it. Because isn't I've heard some people call it, they call it your false chords. I don't know if that's like a universal term for like the hardcore vocals, but did you come across that? Because I think I know the guy you're talking about, who does like the vocal lessons, but learning how to control that part of your like your vocal cords, it's crazy.
Yeah, there's two screaming techniques, two main screaming techniques. So there's false chord screaming and fry screaming, they call it. You might have heard that before. And it basically just has to do with sort of way your vocal folds and everything work. The false chords are there are a couple of folds that are above your main vocal folds that will kind of they're more dumb, as they say. They don't they just kind of like just they're not as finely tuned as our main vocal folds, but you can engage them and use them in your voice to create distortion. And one of the things Chris Lipe taught me as far as engaging those, a good way of being able to do it and then harnessing it is kind of when you let out one of those sighs, just like, oh, like doing like that like rumble you hear is kind of that's your false chords engaging. And then so that's what a lot of people do to get some of that, like the more like kind of Cookie Monster sounding scream or demonic sounds, that like that. You can kind of hear that and then like using different mouth shapes to engage that. And then the fry scream, people confuse it with vocal fry, which is like the like that, because it works in a similar way. Basically, that's when your vocal folds are kind of like, little flaps of flesh like this. And when you get in your falsetto voice, they like squeeze together like this and you're pushing air through. Well, to get your fry scream going, you're basically putting your folds in the same position and then compressing your throat and pushing enough air through that it creates distortion. And that's how you get a vocal fry scream. And that's actually how babies scream. And that's how a baby can scream all day. It can scream its head off all day and it never actually hurts his voice because that's what it's doing. And we can also do it. It just takes redeveloping that to be able to do it, because it kind of goes dormant when we're done using it. But you can kind of hear it because you hear wah, 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 wah. Like that's pushing it and going to the extreme doing that. That's how you get those two different kinds of screams. And those are the two main techniques. There are ways to kind of blend those and get even more rich sound. Corey Taylor does a lot of that, and that's one of the reasons his screams are so nasty sounding sometimes, because he's doing a mix of those things, and it took a lot of work for him to be able to do that, and that's one of the reasons he's the fucking man. And hopefully saying that is okay. All
You can totally swear it's fine. It's
right.
no problem at all. Yeah, it's and I appreciate you breaking down the science of it for me and the listeners, man, because like I've seen some kind of surface level stuff on it just because I was interested in how people did it. And there's multiple singers like Jesse Leach is one of my favorite, Howard's one of my favorite. And I remember Jesse Leach talking about blowing out his voice and how he had to learn. I feel like I'm dropping names all over this podcast, but
That's all
another
right.
the lady, I think they call her the metal whisperer, is I think it's Melissa Cross is another one who works with singers on how to do that. But yeah, and Corey I've heard talk, he jokes about how big his neck is. He's like, that's how I could do all that stuff. But like no, his are crazy because it's so visceral when you listen to it. And actually I think the first time I saw you perform, you had a Slipknot shot on. I was like, or shirt on. I was like, oh, that dude's cool.
Yes. Yes. Love Slipknot.
But yeah, man, like I remember when I started getting into them and I just remembered how visceral and it was, but also the fact that then he could do something completely different, like Stone Sour. That come whatever may record when that came out. Um, I think Through Glass was like the big hit on that one, but there's some heavy kind of awesome moments on that one too. Jim Root is awesome on that, but like it was cool for me as I was getting into Slipknot to see him do that too and be like, oh, that's he's one of those ones that can also do like amazing like melodies and harmonies, and he's always been a good lyricist, but and then the early kind of Slipknot too, which I wouldn't say they ever like got away from it, but certainly that first record, there's a lot of like rap type vocals where he's doing like scat, if I'm using the term right, like those scat vocal patterns in a hardcore voice where it's that visceral, but it's super fast, and it's like, how is he doing this? And like there's like breath work in there and technique. Like I don't think the I don't think somebody who listens, no disrespect, but like I don't think somebody who listens to like probably more mainstream pop kind of stuff. It's I think some for some people it's so harsh they really don't understand. That's why I appreciate you breaking it down, like the work that goes into being able to do that. And those dudes are playing like, sometimes a show like every other night or sometimes back to back. Like I don't think the average listener like like the music can be too coarse for them to really appreciate. Whereas I feel like people who really love heavy music, like for me, that's like where the negative emotions go. I put it into that and like exercise and
Oh
just
yeah.
rock it out. You know what I mean? And I wish more people understood that and would give it a chance because like the ability to do that and like what you're doing too, it's like with all the tension, it's listening to y'all's songs that you put out so far. um I appreciate people who put in the work, man, because as a listener it's like that a lot of that music gets me through the days, man. It gets me through the tough days.
Yeah, I think like you said, a lot of people that don't understand it, I've heard it almost my entire life of listening to it, and it has been most of my life that I've been listening to it now. That people think that it's just noise or they're just up there screaming their head off, and that there's no art to it or what have you. But there first of all, there is a huge art to it, but there's also a lot of skill involved. And you're talking about it like gets you through the day. I had this thought before, and it was before I was actually gotten into screaming myself, really, because I was just thinking about like why it feels so good to listen to it, because it does. It just does. If you're into it, then there's something about it that just like you can feel that emotion. And have you ever heard of what they call mirror neurons or something like that? I think is what it's called. It's basically when your brain, when you see somebody doing something or even hear it, your brain sort of engages in the same activity even though you're not actually doing it. And they call that mirror neurons. I feel there's something to that with screaming. It's like when you're listening to it, like you're feeling yourself do it and go through that, and there's a release in that. I definitely felt that and still do it at times listening to it. And Yeah, I think that could be incredibly impactful for people going through stuff. And what better way than just not just letting it all out, you know?
Yeah, man, like another one of those foundational bands, and they're one of my favorite bands of all time is Korn, man. Like Jonathan Davis,
Talk
like
about going through stuff. I mean, that man has been through everything and he lets it all out in his music.
dude, I've gotten to see them live twice. The last one was pre-apocalypse, uh, before COVID, but it was Alice in Chains and Korn. They did a co-headlining tour and they played Bridgestone. And that was like a spiritual experience. And they opened with Here to Stay, which is my favorite Korn song and like one of my favorite riffs ever. But yeah, the mirror neuron thing is cool because like um I don't know, I've always considered myself like an empath. Like I really enjoy talking with people, and that's why I love doing this. And thank you again for taking the time to chat with me. I feel like I could talk to you
Thanks
for
for having me, man. Yeah,
welcome.
absolutely.
Promise you I won't keep you that long. But yeah, I think for me as a kid, like I grew up Catholic and then like I said, my parents got divorced when I was 11 and they're cool and civil now, but it was rocky for a little bit. So I think the combination of having an older brother, and like I'm sure a lot of people like us can relate to that. When you have an older brother, you look up to your older brother. I have two older brothers, and but Brandon was the one that was really into like the heavier music. And then I think as I got older and also just kind of like I don't have good eyes. I wore glasses until I was in eighth grade, and I had three eye surgeries by the time I was six. And now glasses are like, they're like it's just like anything. Like, nobody thinks anything of it. But when I was a little kid, like I would hear like the four eyes stuff, and like I would hear that kind of stuff, and I had a big head and big old ears and big poofy hair and glasses. And so sometimes I got made fun of and stuff. And so I think part of my draw too to heavy music, certainly as I was getting into like my early teens and stuff too, was just kind of, it was kind of a combination of all those things. It was like my parents' divorce, kind of feeling like I didn't really have a group. I was like an altar boy, but I loved basketball and I also loved metal. So I didn't, and then especially when you get into high school too, there's not like it's even if you're considered a quote unquote nerd or whatever, like those kids still had each other. You know what I mean? And I had but you know what I'm saying? Like I had friends from kind of all
Yeah.
I played football and basketball my freshman year, but I was also still an altar boy, which isn't like the coolest thing when you're 15 in high school. Nobody's like, "Oh, I want to, talk to the dude who's like is serving at the school masses." You know what I mean? But then I had like, I loved heavy music too. So I had friends from like kind of all over. But then when you don't have like one group, people are like, well, what is this dude like? And I kind of felt I didn't have like a horrible high school experience, but so I think I felt really drawn to heavy music because it was like I felt like they were kind of outcasts too. And Korn in particular, man, like I just like even in their music videos, and then as I got really into them, Jonathan Davis talked like you alluded to, he a lot about like just not only the awful stuff that he went through as a kid, um, but getting made fun of and that kind of stuff. And I've like the falling away from me music video, like all the kids basically come to
Mm.
rescue the girl who's getting beat by her dad. So yeah, long way of me saying like, the mirror neuron thing, I really feel though, because yeah, when I listen to heavy music, it's like, all that's where all that dark energy goes. You know what I mean? And I think we often think of dark energy as bad, but I think it's only bad if your output for it is bad. If you channel it the right way, like I always tell people who aren't into heavy music, I'm like, give it a shot because it's a positive release of negative emotion. That's like the best way I can describe it for people. But anyway, that was a big long rant as a follow-up. I told you I don't talk a lot on these things, and here I am ranting.
No, I love that. I love the positive release of negative energy. Is that what she said? Something to that effect.
Positive release of negative
A
emotion. But yeah,
negative emotion. Yeah, absolutely. That is that could be an album name. It could be the name of some sort of group that listens to heavy music. Something about that. I just really like that because it's true, it's relatable, and I feel like that's part of what drew me to the darker stuff was uh because I feel like we all have those dark and darker emotions, and you can maybe choose to try to not feed it or whatever, but I feel like that's only going to cause a buildup and maybe lead to worse things that happen from that. Maybe um, if you're not letting it out through music, it's going to come out in other ways. So I feel like letting it out through music, either listening to it, making it, performing it, whatever, um, is a good way to let it out. It definitely is, always has been for me. And if you're only listening to bubblegum pop all the time, I don't know how you're letting it all out, because I know we all go through it. We all have our struggles and things that we deal with in life. And for me, that's the best way to let it out. But yeah, I really love that. I'm gonna write that down.
Hey, yeah, use it, man. And bringing it back to you, Kris, as far as the loop I was making in my rant, running around the track in my mind with because I'm just geeking out with you right now, talking about heavy music, and I love it. But for you, doing those lessons and learning how to train your voice and really build up that skill, was there a moment where you felt like it clicked? Was there a song that you sang along to and you're like, oh crap, I think I got this now, like in your journey during the pandemic?
Such a good question. And yeah, actually, I was in the car practicing along, and there was this song that I would practice, I would like kind of do because it's such a sick line. And this vocalist is such a sick screamer, such a huge influence on me as far as screaming goes. Somebody that like when I wanted to scream, I was like, I'm looking up to this guy because he's like one of the pinnacle screamers in my opinion. And that's Spencer Chamberlain from Underoath. Um, he is incredible, just what he can do with his voice. And there's a song, I think it's called "Writing on the Walls" by Underoath, and there's a line in there. It's kind of gets real heavy. It says, "Nothing to calm the nerve, nothing to calm the nerve," and I was kind of like doing that like line, and I remember like doing it and it felt right. It sounded right in my head. I recorded it and I listened back to it and I was like, that's it right there. That's that's what I'm going for. That's where I need to be. And I like kept doing that line over and over. And because I got it in that moment. I remember exactly. I'm like, I'm going to keep practicing that until it's so consistent that I can practice other things. If that makes sense. And I was practicing other things before that, but it was like that line in that moment. I was like, it kind of clicked. And I was like, that's where I need to be. I remembered how it felt and where I needed my voice and everything to be. And I started just repeating that same line, nothing to calm the nerve. Nothing to calm the nerve. Like just like that. I was like, all right, I got it. Just do it over and over again. And so really good question. Are you a fan of Underoath as well?
So I wasn't as aware of them when I was young. I mean, I knew who they were. They weren't on my radar as much. And then actually I want to say on that Horn Alice in Chains bill, they were on that tour. I think it was
Oh,
Horror,
no way.
Under Oath, Corn, and Alice in Chains. So I'm almost positive that they were on that show. And then they did so I saw him live, the singer. I think Under Oath, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they took like a break for a little bit, and then he had like a side project. It's gonna kill me. It's gonna kill me now. But they played a show with He Is Legend, who I also love, my buddy Ryan, who I was telling you about from Chocolate Bombs. That's like his favorite band. And when they were on tour, they came through Toledo and Tropic Bombs was on the bill. But it was like that side project. I think when
You're
under
talking about the Almost, are you?
um gosh, I gotta look, man, it's gonna drive me nuts now. Under Oath, what is there? And I'm sure that I Under Oath fans, if you're listening, please don't kill me. I love heavy music, but and again, what I've heard from them, I love, but they weren't on my radar as much. But and I don't want to detract from your point because I'm that's a sweet moment to be able to, you know, do something heavy and have it click. But anyway, yeah, it was I saw them live, but it wasn't Under Oath. It was like the side project or other musical endeavor. Um, I think when they were on kind of like a hiatus or a break, and it was with He Is Legend, who is also sick. But no, what's their singer's name? He's got a hell of a voice.
Spencer Chamberlain.
Spencer Chamberlain. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
And they did unfortunately go on a hiatus, like plenty of bands do over the years. And I understand it. I'm just thankful they got back together. Same with because they are back, they are making new music. They came out with new stuff somewhat recently. Um, Same with Blink 182. You know, they've been through many hiatuses.
It was
uh,
Sleepwave. That's who I just
oh,
as we were talking. It was when he did the Sleepwave thing. I'm almost positive it was with like Sleepwave. He Is Legend. Anyway, it was a sick show, but Sleepwave,
super cool.
it was cool. But again, Under Oath fans, please don't, please, I'm probably being, please don't come after me. From what I've listened for, and they just did a 20, I think I don't know if they're still on a 20-year anniversary tour from their record from '04 too, I believe.
Yeah, that's correct. But I actually didn't know about Sleepwave. I'm gonna have to check those guys out. I'm a big Spencer. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Spencer. And then the Under Oath fans that are already pissed off at you are gonna be pissed off at me now. How dare you call yourself a Spencer fan and you don't even know about Sleepwave?
I hope people aren't too harsh because I mean we didn't bash them or anything. I didn't bash
No, yeah.
them as familiar with their work, but no, it was actually I think it was at the main event, if I'm not mistaken, which is right down the street from Frankie's Inner City in Toledo. So that's really inside baseball for people in Toledo. But um, well, that's sick, man, because I bet it felt good again, practicing, watching those videos to finally hit that. Because I appreciate that skill so much because I just think it would be so sick to be able to emote like that. I can't imagine that feeling. It's one thing to perform live, and I think you'll get what I'm about to say because you love heavy music too, but seeing people be able to do that, and listening to it and being able to see it live, like guys like we talked about, whether it's Spencer, Jonathan Davis, Corey Taylor. Um, I've seen Korn twice now, and like every single song, like Jonathan's in it. I don't know if he's reliving the lyrics or if he can compartmentalize that and it's just the emotions of the song. But being able to do heavy vocals like that, I just is like it's really awesome to me because I just love that music so much. So I think it's sick that you're able to do it, man. And All the Tension is the band. And again, I feel terrible because I try not to talk so much on this, but I think I just love heavy music so much. This is how Brand and I got to be buddies because we just nerded out about Seven Dust for like like an hour on the patio at the end. I just got his ear and I was like, "You like Seven Dust too, dude? Oh, Animosity. What's your favorite song?" Um, but listening to All the Tension, which you are the singer in,
Oh
sometimes
yeah.
that voice. But I definitely heard the pop punk influence and ruin this song 100%. And really enjoyed that. Um, but again, like we're talking about, man, with the vocals on Def. faster and faster. Um, I think the metalhead in me with Def, like with that riff and what you're doing in that song, I'm like, yes, that's, I love all of them, but it was interesting when we started this for you to say Blink 182, what an influence they were, because I can definitely hear the pop punk moments and ruin this song. But for people who aren't aware of all the tension, um, kind of, getting on this musical journey with you here with me and the listeners, man, doing the hardcore vocals during the pandemic. What was it like just kind of getting all the tension together? Because the synergy musically from what you guys have put out, I think there's a lot of potential, as it were. But I really enjoyed what you guys have put out so far.
Yeah, I think when I started the project, Death was actually one of the first songs that I wrote for it. I wanted to go in a heavier direction for sure than previous things that I had done. And so I was like, I'm going to set the tone kind of with this song and kind of go from there. So Death being the heavy ass song that it is, and it does get pretty heavy and it's sort of the lyrically it's sort of a calling card to that. The chorus says, "I'll tell you what you're gonna see. It's everything." That's exactly what you're gonna get and nothing less, you know? Uh, so that was really like my mindset behind the song, the lyrics, and everything. And then just lyrically, also just moving on from the things that I've been through in my past, and just kind of going forward with what I'm doing now. And then uh, one of the other things that I wanted to do was sort of not incorporate not only the heavy stuff, but basically sort of span all of the main things in music that I really like. So our first four singles, I had intentionally decided we were going to release four singles and then release a full album. I actually wrote almost all of the album last year around this time. Um, some of the songs came from the past a little bit, or there were pieces of it that came from the past, but it was all sort of put together last year around this time. Um, and the name sort of came from this idea as well, in that I was like, I want to have all the tension, all the types of it, from the metal to the pop punk, melancholy to the emo, sad stuff. We're going to have all the tension in the music. And so we did Death, which is the metalcore kind of driving stuff. We did Faster and Faster, which is the kind of post-hardcore screamo kind of vibe that I liken to Silverstein or something like that. We did Ruin the Song, which is the definitely like pop punk driven kind of thing that's very prominent in my life as well. And the next song, which we'll be releasing really soon, I've been doing an interesting thing where we just release it and then we announce it. So like whenever I announce it on Instagram or what have you, it's usually been out there for a day or so already. But like we're not a big famous band or whatever, so I don't like think that uh promoting it and being like it's gonna drop on this day matters all that much to me. To me, it's more like, okay, because I mean, I even feel like sometimes when I see bands do that, I'm like, okay, let me know when it's released, Like I'm not marking my calendar to listen to the song, but if you say it right now that it's out right now, maybe I'll go listen to it. So that's what we've been doing. There's a song called Nevermind, and it is the fourth pillar of our music, I'll say. That is definitely the more sad emo song. The first half of it is just piano, acoustic guitar, and vocals, and then it comes in full band in the second half. And it's definitely one of those more like emo power ballads. So that's the four pillars of our band, and the rest of the album is a mixture of all of that.
Hell yeah, man. And for people who aren't aware, and I know we're coming up on time, and I want to be respectful of your time, man. And thank you so much again for doing this. But
Thanks for having me, man. It's been fun.
oh, you're welcome. You're welcome anytime, man. But you're and I got to get out to one of them. But it's interesting you mentioned that as the fourth pillar because I know you're doing emo nights in Nashville too. I've been seeing those, and I'm like, and I'm trying like I have to get it on the speaking of mark the calendar, I got to get it on the calendar and come out and do it because you've been doing like emo brunch and is it Fat Bites? Is my research do I
Yeah,
remembering that correctly? Okay.
you got it. It's funny. It's my buddy Colton's gig. He does it. He's supposed to do it every Sunday. It's like his thing. He does like an emo brunch at Fat Bites, but I feel like as of late he's been so busy that I've been doing it more often than him. He hit me up about it, asking me if I'd be down to do it, and I was like, yeah, dude. I mean, I love emo. I could easily do a 2 hour set. No problem. And so I've been doing it lately, and it's so much fun. Just like 2 hours of me up there. I bring my piano and my acoustic guitar and go back and forth. I think I told you earlier on that my piano is definitely my stronger suit. I could play some chords on acoustic guitar. It's not a problem, but definitely going back and forth between those two. It's been a lot of fun.
Keys are fun, man. I can't play at
Yeah.
all, but my niece and nephew have like one of those electronic keyboards in their basement, and I felt it was my duty as an uncle to show her like still Dre. So the dun dun dun.
Of
Oh,
course.
but it's so cool watching kids learn and get excited because there's something about us as we grow into adulthood, and I don't know if it's just the responsibilities of life or just the things that happen that kind of harden you along the way. But at some point, we kind of lose like that childlike wonder and excitement. You know what I'm talking about? Like when you just see, like when you see little kids, they're almost always running like they just can't wait. Whereas most people are like, what? They got like we got scooters. I don't even have to walk. You know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
so cool to show her. And I just looked it up. Like because I mean, I noodle on guitar and I don't tell anybody here I play because there's legit musicians like yourself in Nashville, and it's just something that I do privately terribly because it's one of those positive negative emotion anyway. But so I kind of looked up like where your fingers are supposed to be on the keys and stuff, you know. So I kind of played the dun 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 part, and then there's another part in it where it's like dun 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 going on the same time. I think that's the left hand. So I said, Aubrey, just remember like 1, 2, 3, 4. She's like, okay. And then so then she was saying it as she was doing. She's like 1, 2, 3, 4. So I got a little video of her doing it, but anyway, anytime people bring up the piano now, it makes me think of that moment with my niece because
You're gonna have to share that with me. That sounds awesome.
she's the cutest, man. She's a little diva. I love her, man. She's the cutest. But yeah, it's the piano's it's beautiful, man. There's a YouTube account called Chill Switch Engage, and this dude is
Ooh,
and he takes all their songs and puts everything is on piano, like how he voices it. It's awesome. I think you would dig it.
definitely. Like you said, piano is such a beautiful instrument. I've always loved the way it sounded, and that was one of the things that drew me to it early on, and one of the reasons that I've messed around with it my whole life, and just continued to. I eventually one day, like I wanted to play guitar. I wanted to be a guitarist. There was that. Like I said, seeing that band early on, there wasn't any piano players in that band. I'll tell you that playing the lit song, but just sort of messing around with both of them. I one day just was like, you know what? I'm better at piano. I'm gonna lean into that. And I'm glad I did. I definitely developed in a way that I'm not like a classically trained pianist, but I'm happy with what I'm able to do now. I'm able to showcase it on Nevermind, the new song that'll be out soon. I don't know when you release these, but it's so soon that it'll probably be out by the time this comes out. So check it out on all the platforms. We're gonna release it. It'll just be NVM. Never mind in that way, like the abbreviation of it. The closing song on the album is I Don't Care, IDC. So it sort of like kind of calls back to that. So I just think that that's kind of fun. But yeah, it also really lends itself well to doing acoustic emo covers, I'll tell you that. Just being the instrument that it is, I'm sure you can hear it in your head already. Like doing emo covers on piano is just chef's kiss.
Well, just to put a button on this bad boy, Kris, and thank you again so much for your time, dude. It's been cool to get to know you better in this conversation beyond the couple of times we got to meet in person. For people when they hear this, it'll be early January. This is actually the first episode of 2025. So me and you talking to each other, this will be hitting people's eardrums in the new year. So um
Awesome. Happy New
so
Year, everybody.
yeah, man. So I'll be looking forward to the new track, especially since I know you still got a lot of the emo in you, but just to put a button on this, dude, with the theme of the show being March 4th, perseverance moving forward, anything that you want to share in terms of things that have helped you? I mean, obviously, we're talking a lot about music. I'm sure that's one of the big therapeutic things in your life and singing. But for people who are maybe trying to turn a corner going into the new year, it's a good time to set goals. It's a good time to kind of reset and get a clean slate, get a fresh 12 months. Um, Anything that's helped you get through a dark time that you feel like might be somewhat universal and help somebody out there who's trying to get on more of the up and up.
Absolutely. A couple of years ago, I went through a really tough time in my life, really depressive state. I wasn't sure exactly why, and I couldn't really nail it all down, but just getting through life and probably also getting being in my 30s, and going through different things. It was just a really tough time, and it was kind of the turn of the new year a couple years ago. Um, that literally ending of 22, beginning of 23, around when I started this band, I was going through this tough time, and one of the things that helped me turn it around was I decided to start going outside a lot more, and I know that that's sort of like a common trope or like thing that people say, go touch grass or whatever people say. But I started this sort of new initiative in my life where that I was going to go for a walk uh, every day. I was like, no matter what, I'm going to go on this trail. There's like this trail at my apartment complex, and I'm going to go walk the trail every day. um, which I started doing, and then it turned into, well, I'm gonna walk the trail, and then I'm gonna go down. I live like behind there's like a shopping center, a Target and a Kroger. I was like, all right, I'm gonna walk the trail, and then I'm gonna go down to this red light down here, down the street. And then it just developed into more and more, and doing that every day and having that discipline to do it every single day, there was something about it that really helped. It was something to look forward to. It was something that like gave me perspective, gave me time to think outside of all of the noise in life. Um, and it's something that's continued to this day that like honestly really helped pull me out of that. I mean, there was other things that helped with that, but that was probably the main driving force behind pulling me out of this um, rut that I was in. And yeah, so I would say in whatever way that you can, if you can find something to get in touch with the natural world, that's one of the best things that you could do. It certainly helped me.
I appreciate that, man. Getting out in nature and getting out of your head is really important. And where I live too, it's funny you say that because there's like I'm not far from one of the lakes where we are in the greater Nashville area, and there's some really cool places to go walk by the water and by the library where I live. And it's just yeah, when you get to nature and get out of your head, and as much as I love music too, like most of the time when I'm on those walks, I don't even have anything in my ears because I just want to be, I just feel like I want to be connected and allow my head to kind of, you know what I mean, like open up a little bit. But I
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing that, and I'm glad that you're in a better headspace, man, and that you've got a positive outlet for it. So thank you again so much, dude, for your time. I'm always conscious of how much I rant, and since you love heavy music, I definitely grabbed your ears today. So I won't keep you any longer, other than to say that I'm manifesting again. This will be 2025, but that you've had a very happy holiday season with your loved ones, um, and
Thanks, man. You too, for sure.
positive vibes going into 2025, man. I'm excited for all the tension and getting out to be able to see a show in 2025. So everybody keep an eye out for Nevermind. It might be out by the time this comes out, but and I appreciate connecting with you. And again, happy to hear you're in a positive headspace compared to a couple of years ago, because I think that's one of the most important things for people going through stuff is to know that it does get better. You just got to hang in there, man, you know?
Hmm. For sure. You nailed it.
Well, I'll put up the links for everybody who's not familiar with All the Tension, but let them know where they can find you, Kris.
You got it. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon, whatever, wherever they put out music. And I'm sure this will be wherever you listen to podcasts or whatever they say, the calling card, right? So yeah, check it out.
Alrighty, dighty, there you have it. That was my conversation with Kris Jackson of All the Tension. Make sure you go follow All the Tension on Instagram at All the Tension. And to keep up with Kris and what he's got going on, you can follow him at KJax2288 on Instagram. And that is Jax with an X. The links to all of his stuff will be in the podcast description for this episode. So just scroll down to the bottom of that podcast description, hit those links, and go follow and support Kris and All the Tension. You will not be disappointed if you love pop punk and you love metalcore, you love breakdowns, you love great heavy vocals and great musicianship. They're doing their thing, man. Once again, the 3 singles that they have released to the world thus far are Deaf, Faster and Faster, and Ruin This Song, available wherever you get your music. Keep an eye out for the forthcoming and aforementioned Nevermind, which should be on its way soon. And I know I'm excited for what these guys got coming in 2025. So I just want to say directly to Kris, thank you so much, man, for coming on the podcast and sharing your journey with me and the listeners. It's been cool the few times that we've gotten to meet in person and chop it up briefly at these shows, Return of the Void and in the Sleep Nation album release show a couple months ago. And it was just cool to get to know you better on this one, man. And hear more about your journey and that process of this skill set that you have to be able to do the cleans and to be able to do the screams, man. And so I hope all the fellow music nerds out there like Kris and myself really enjoyed that one, man, because I have a ton of appreciation for singers who can do that with their voice, who can go from really beautiful melodies to just really guttural, emotive, like heavy vocals, man. It's yeah, I wish I could do it. I wish, if like people say like what's a superpower you wish I had, to me that's like a superpower, man. That's to be able to express yourself lyrically and musically. It's just such a powerful tool. Like call back to earlier, positive release and negative emotions. So thank you again so much, Kris, for taking the time to come on the podcast. You are welcome anytime. And I know I speak on behalf of myself, but I feel pretty comfortable speaking on behalf of the listeners of the show as well. They're going to dig All the Tension, man. So once again, everybody, go follow All the Tension on Instagram at All the Tension. Follow Kris at KJax2288, and that is Jax with an X. The links are in the podcast description. If you're friends of Kris, or somehow this show showed up on your algorithm in 2025, again, welcome aboard the pirate ship. If this is your first time listening, once again, you can follow me at March 4th Pod on Instagram and YouTube, March 4th Podcast on TikTok. The links to all of my stuff are in the podcast description as well. So if you want to holler at me, you can find me out there. You want to learn more about your boy, there's stuff in the podcast description for you to do that. But I do appreciate you taking the time to listen. And if you did enjoy what you heard, please like and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I say it all the time. I hate begging for this stuff. But it does go a long way in helping get these conversations out to more people. So if you enjoyed that conversation with Kris, and you don't want to miss any future episodes, you want to check out the back catalog, please go ahead and do so. But leaving a rating and a review for the show on whatever service whatever streaming service that you just listened to it on, that goes a long way in help getting it out to more people. And that's what I want, man, because Kris has the pipes and all the tension has the skill, and I just can't wait for the full album, man. So thank you to all of you once again. Happy New Year, everybody. I'm gonna wrap this bad boy up. Pop a Benadryl or two because your boy's a little nasally. I've been feeling like crap for like 48 hours, and I got to get some good sleep tonight. But I'm really excited for the new year, man. This was a great episode to kick things off. There's so much talent here in Nashville where I live, man, and I feel very fortunate to have been able to connect with people like Kris, like Brandon Joey from Sleep Nation. There's so much awesome music here, and it's just really cool to be in this melting pot of creativity, man. And I'm just really grateful. I'm really grateful to be here. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Keep the faith and be kind to one another in 2025, and be kind to yourselves. Courtesy of Kris, I decided to pick a track for this one. Once again, everybody stay tuned for Nevermind. But this song of the singles they've released so far, it's hard to pick a favorite because there's flavors in every one of them that I like. But this one I felt like was it's got a little bit of everything with not only his vocals but awesome breakdowns, which I'm a big fan of as a headbanger myself. And so I decided to give you guys this track to close out the episode. From All the Tension, here is Faster and Faster. Peace.
I can feel my brain speeding off like a runaway train. No matter how hard I hit the brakes, it just keeps going faster and faster and faster and faster. Feel my brain speeding off like a runaway train. No matter how hard I hit the brakes, just keeps going faster and faster and faster and faster. One moment walking through a mall, see a girl who I think she's pretty tall. Then the next time taking Adderall and 2 shots of some unheard of alcohol. Or maybe to hopefully slow things down from the compounds that he and I just down. Maybe speed things up with a bit of adrenaline. How could we not win with this sense of entitlement? Flash me down and take me anywhere far away. Spin me around the eye of hurricane. Roll me up with some caffeine. Inject me with morphine to bring me back to earth. I can feel my brain speeding off like a runaway train. No matter how hard I hit the brakes, just keeps going faster and faster and faster. And I can't be detained when I'm only trying to break the chains from all the times that I was trained to be someone who you thought I should be. I'm gonna break free. I'm gonna break free. I'm gonna break free. Atonement is waiting for us all. We in a world where all the dominoes will fall, where every car will speed and crash into a fucking wall, kill every single soul that was involved. So why would I bother slowing down the run when speeding up just sounds like too much fun? And it will all break down on us one day anyway. Just let the children play and they'll die another day. Flash me down and take me anywhere far away. Spin me around the eye of hurricane. Roll me up with some adrenaline. Shot of the dream. And I'm going back to work. I can feel my brain speeding off like a runaway train. No matter how hard I hit the brakes, just keeps going faster and faster and faster. And I can't be detained when I'm only trying to break the chains from all the times that I was trained to be someone who you thought I should be. I'm gonna break free, and you will never fucking catch me. Cause I'll be speeding off into eternity. I'm gonna break free. There's nothing left. You motherfucker!